Welcome to today's episode of Jedi Alliance. Today we're going to be talking about Claudia Gray's novel, Bloodline. We're also going to be talking about the confirmation of Alden Ehrenreich as our young Han Solo. So stay with us.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Jedi Alliance.
Welcome everybody to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told. Celebrate. We're here today to talk about Claudia Gray's new novel, Bloodline, but I'm not alone. He is the ransom caster foe to my princess slash Senator Leia Organa. Hopefully he doesn't meet the same fate. That's not a spoiler, Mr. John Rocha.
How you doing? How you doing, guys? Great to be back. I'm so excited to talk about this novel. Thanks for calling me that senator. He's thin and young, and so I'll take it. I'll take it.
You're one to wear a nice robe.
Yeah, I have Empire collectibles at my house.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't?
I
really?
mean,
got a wonderful little R2B1 that nobody has.
R2B1?
Because yeah,
Wow.
this is the one on Padme's ship.
holy, I gotta
That
get
dies.
that one.
That totally dies, and that's not a spoiler either. So how was your weekend?
It was great. It was full of reading Bloodline and like getting super excited for Rogue One, super excited for 8 now because there's so many elements in this book that are going to bleed out into 8 because Rian Johnson was involved in this. So for me, it was super fun to go totally nerd all weekend and just get lost in the book.
I agree.
Great stuff.
Even gets me more excited for Life Debt, the next one, the new Aftermath one that's coming out, because we do get some Snap Wexley in here as well.
Yes, we do.
So yes, before we get into our news from the Holonet and talking about Bloodline, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our folks who leave us comments on Facebook, on Twitter, all of our new followers on Twitter, as well as YouTube. And somebody mentioned on YouTube, yes, we do read the comments. Yes, we do respond to the comments. Yeah. Somebody talked about how the show has been seeming sort of barren without the lack of guests. But hey, John and I are good enough. I just wanted to address it real quick.
Wait. What more do you want, people? I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. What more? We're wearing Star Wars shirts. We're like dedicated to this. What more do you want? Are we not enough? Do we not fill up enough of the hot air in this room, for God's sakes?
It is pretty warm in here. Yeah. But I just wanted to address it. I wanted to take the opportunity with John and I taking over the show. I wanted to allow us to build up a rapport with each other as hosts on air, because we do have a rapport off air as well, but not in a host respect, sort of a thing, as well as a new rapport with you, the audience. Maud and Ken had the opportunity to do that when they started the show, so I wanted us to get a nice foundation before moving super straightforward with the show. Of course, we were talking about Rebels, so we had Emma Fife on here as a Rebels expert. We were talking about women in Star Wars. Wanted to get a well-respected female nerd, that is Audrey Kearns. So for those topics, we felt like we had to get people on here, but we're getting to a point where we're gonna have full shows again. So stay with us. We appreciate you for staying with the show. Tell your friends about us, because we're having a ball.
Absolutely, man. I think it's great. And you're right. What Mark said is correct. We're just trying to build the chemistry. And, I'm walking into this really cold, and it was great to come on as a guest, but I just wanted to, it's always great for us to work our chemistry out. Now that we've got that, which we fell into pretty quickly, now we can start focusing on bringing in more guests.
That's what happens when you're wrestling fans.
Hello.
You just kind of naturally connect.
That's right.
So let's get started with news from the Holonet. The biggest news of the week was Alden Ehrenreich being confirmed as Han Solo. And we get another opportunity to show this terribly photoshopped picture that I've been throwing around the internet, hoping that other outlets could bring up. But I think the biggest surprise from this was the amount of negative backlash that came from it.
Right?
We've been talking about this news on and off since October.
Yeah, this is not a surprise.
No.
So they just needed to confirm it once and for all, because already the people who hadn't been selected were doing interviews about how terrible the process was for them. Dave Franco and I think it's Jack O'Connell recently, because of Money Monster coming out, that new one he's done with Clooney. He talked about it and he said how he only had one audition and there was all this nerves and pressure, and I didn't get a chance to show what I could really do. And it's like, hey man, sometimes it's a tough business,
especially with an industry, and the industry that is Star Wars.
Yeah,
not even just the entertainment industry, but Star Wars is so clear cut. Yeah, when you're casting a role with name talent like they don't usually do. Yeah, you gotta be sure.
Yeah, and this guy, and listen, it's Lord Miller. Like, Lord Miller are pretty amazing. So I recently saw the first 13 minutes of their new tour the Hunter or whatever it is, the new that's coming, Zorg or whatever it is coming out on Fox.
Probably not Zorg.
I forget what it's
that's
called.
from The Fifth Element.
Something like that, but it's the mixture of real life with animation, and it's fantastic. I saw it last night because a friend of mine was showing me some early screeners, and it was great. So Lord Miller, pretty much anything they touch is great or gold. So you've got to give them space that they've cast the right guy. And other people may complain about the process, but a director knows when he or she's got the right person for the role, and we got to trust that they have done it. There's nothing about their track record speaks that they miss.
Agreed.
You know?
And I think as nerds, we were done with the whole complaining about casting thing after the whole Heath Ledger thing.
Right. Oh,
well,
right.
After that was, what are you doing? But once that first footage came out, everybody was like, okay, I'm ready to be scared. And it's unfortunate how ready to be scared people are with this casting. But I'm really excited about it. When do you think we're going to see test footage?
I think we're going to see. Well, of the actual movie?
Well, I mean, if anything,
I think he's going to show up in Rogue One.
Do you think we're going to get something at Comic-Con? Do you think we're going to get something, or do you think we have to wait for Rogue One to see him?
Yeah, because I think Rogue One in the trailers, I'd be surprised if they showed something at Comic-Con, but then again, they kind of have to, right? To kind of like up the ante a little bit.
Maybe.
So maybe Comic-Con, but like because they said they're not going to start shooting until January, the standalone. So sure, Comic-Con or Celebration, one of the two.
Yeah, Celebration.
We'd see something there. Yeah,
ooh, that'd be pretty quick though.
Right? Yeah, well, that's the rumor that they're going to like fly into Comic-Con and then fly right out to Celebration. So it's just crazy. It's a heck of a turnaround.
We're excited. It's wonderful casting. I actually did.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the whole movie yet because I spent all weekend reading this book. Right. But I did see some of his performance in Hail Caesar.
Yeah,
and
he's great in Hail
really
Caesar.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, find that as well.
Yeah.
Our next story came as a result of the May the 4th celebration. We got a big reveal from Lego Star Wars.
Yeah.
The image that we're showing shows a lot of Rathtars. We see some Lor San Tekka in there, bounty hunters, and as well as a level based on the Poe to the Rescue short. And we also have a trailer, so we're going to cue that up in just a second. But now that we're seeing a little bit more from all sides of the Lego universe. What other sort of headcanon exploratory type stories do you want to see?
This is a great question because you can go all over the place with this, right? For me, it's about exploring a little more of the characters involved in Force Awakens. I want to see a little more of Poe. I want to see if we're going to do a video game like that, that's what I want to see, this exploring of like how he got to where he is, what happened in his past. We see a little bit of it touched on in the comics, but we haven't seen enough of it, being shown to us yet. And so I'd love to see that. What about you?
To be honest, we talked about Before the Awakening on the show. I would love to see some of those stories change and altered to be Legos so that we know that there is they utilize canon in the Lego games, but it's not necessarily canon. It's weird, but it would be cool to see their take on some of those more serious stories, and how they can lighten them up, and then children will have a bit of. If they don't get the book, then they'll have another way to get that content.
How awesome would it be if you could like be Yoda and like go through his whole like adventure? And I don't mean Yoda now as we know him, but Yoda like when he's figuring himself out, like as a younger Yoda or exploring whatever planets or whatever situations he finds himself in. You create a whole bunch of fun
Really,
adventures.
Yoda's been a sticking point for you.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
I'm a creature of habit. What can I say?
I know that there's going to be some season pass content with it as well.
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff from Empire Strikes Back in it. I know because I already pre-ordered it. And there's a lot more that's going to be coming with this bundle. But why don't we take a look at the trailer and we'll go from there. How about that? I've got it should be the window right behind the pictures. Maybe not. While that's being worked on.
There it is.
Still pretty excited about this game.
Yeah.
And this trailer will give a little bit more of a show for what we were talking about already, which is the Lor San Tekka levels, the bounty hunter, Poe to the rescue. So it's nice for them on the 4th to kind of come forward. Like, despite being so close to release, they're still like, oh, don't worry, we're still going to have all of this fun stuff in it. So why don't we take a quick look at it right now? Thank you for staying with us.
Relive the galaxy's greatest journey.
This thing really moves.
And go beyond the film to experience exclusive all-new stories.
Don't worry, boss. I got us the best Raptor hunters in the system.
Hunt ravenous Raptors with Han and Chewie.
You ready for that, Chewie?
And you don't know whether I honestly couldn't tell if they're just pulling from unreleased Han dialogue, or if they just got a really good Han voiceover actor.
Yeah.
Some of that classic Lego silliness.
Good luck finding your pilot.
Discover the secrets of Jakku with Lor Santeca.
This one, the one with Lor Santeca, seems like the most interesting.
Yeah.
And we don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
So
Rescue Admiral Akbar
how
with
can
Poe
it?
Dameron.
It could be something that they could pull on for future canon or not.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Discover hidden secrets.
We need the location of the
Look at that. Look how extensive it is, man.
Galactic mysteries.
It's each Lego game, despite being a game about toy bricks, it always ends up looking better and better every time.
And Wookiee cookies for Chewie.
That's got to be him.
That's got to be
Right?
Harrison. So yeah, we're getting a lot of extra content with it.
Yeah.
And it looks good. June 28th.
Yeah, it's right around the corner, man.
Yeah. So we have that to look forward to. Speaking of video games,
Yeah.
Also on May 4th, Respawn Entertainment, which is the Titanfall developer featuring a lot of folks from the Call of Duty franchise, they announced that they're developing a third-person action game based in the Star Wars universe, and it is a quote. It takes place in the quote ever expanding Star Wars universe. So, could this be a resurgence of the Coruscant game with Boba Fett, or it really could be anything. We could get Fringe. What if we got a Lost Stars game? What is your dream canon, non-canon Star Wars game?
I don't. This is a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. Once again, this is like when you say your dream, I've seen so many things already come about. But like I'm an old school guy. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, you're asking me the dream canon Star Wars game. We already saw Battlefront on Hoth. We already saw, and then of course a little bit on Bespin. And so we've seen all that kind of jazz. To me, I want something that's going to go deeper. A more first-person game. It's going to be a little bit more like you're following through a Jedi. Maybe I've always been a big fan of the Old Republic stuff. So something more extensive that's not like a player on a computer game. Like it's an actual game you can play on your console that you can go deep into the storylines of the Old Republic and have them echo in stuff that we're watching now, which we get a little bit in Bloodline.
Get a little bit in here.
So,
we've gotten a little bit in Rebels.
Yes.
So it's a time period that they keep sort of teasing.
Yes.
I agree. I would like the old Republic time, but
The Jedi seemed a bit cooler back then.
well, they seem a little bit more reckless.
Yes, which is why they're cool, because they're not necessarily, like cookie cutter good or cookie cutter bad. They're like, they have levels to them and stuff that you have to be uncomfortable with and understand and be okay with. And I dug that. That's what I always enjoyed about those extended universe novels. They challenged you really as a reader and a lover of the property and the franchise to like be okay with this and kind of expand your mind and see that there's more levels than just being all the time good or all the time bad. Even I'm sorry, I don't want to go off too
No, that's
deeply,
fine, but it just reminds me of what they were
Yeah.
trying to do seemingly with Force Unleashed.
Yes.
With Starkiller.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's no longer canon. So
Right.
maybe would you be interested in seeing a secret Jedi? So would you be totally opposed to something happening in the modern Star Wars canon? Like, do you want to see something from the New Republic as opposed to?
Yeah. Oh, you mean like what we see in Force Awakens?
Yeah,
you mean? Is that what
Force
you-
Awakens,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure. I think with what we saw, what we read in Bloodline, there's certainly plenty now rich storylines to explore, rich environments, planets,
Nikto
to explore.
cartels,
Yeah, all those kinds
other
of things.
non-associated militant groups,
Right,
sort of a thing.
And a way to work the politics in there. I mean, if you can, how many times do you really get to do that in a Star Wars video game? It's not a lot of times you get to work the politics in there. That'd be great to see something extensive, first-person shooter, kind of like figuring that all out as you go through, kind of like those Uncharted games and what have you. You have one central person, and they go through everything. You have to negotiate, you have to figure out trade routes, you have to do all those kinds of jazz, as well as action. And so if you can do a combo, I think it'd be one of the most amazing games ever, and very extensive.
Maybe we just get a sabacc game. Maybe just a mobile sabacc game.
Just play cards.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Play with real money though. And then our
let me chime in real quick.
Sure.
Okay.
So I was checking it out, and sorry for the delay on the video. That was my fault.
That's
but
fine. No worries.
It looks like on a website called Behind the Voice Actors, Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens is actually voiced by
Harrison
Oh,
Ford.
wow.
So look at that.
Look at that crusty old man just letting all his guards down and being a part of everything. I love it.
It seems like now that you killed him off, you can't get rid of him.
You can't get rid of
like,
him.
what the heck? Oh, spoilers. Sorry. Couple months.
I think since the plane accident, he's been like, all right, I'll be in everything.
All right, I gotta make as much money as I can while I can. It's like, wait, this could run out. And then our final story of the day.
Yes.
Star Wars Celebration 2017 is announced for Orlando.
Yeah.
That is a lot easier to get to than England. And I'm just saying, John, we mentioned
Yes.
that we were wrestling fans.
Yes.
That's not too far away from WrestleMania. That could be a fun couple of weeks.
Isn't that where the center is, too? The
Yeah, the
training
Performance Center.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Star Wars Celebration is going to be in Orlando from April 13th to April 16th.
Yeah.
And tickets go on sale May 25th. That's coming up close.
Yeah.
So if you want a chance, make sure you have that first half hour open, because that's probably about as much as they're going to last. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. Hopefully that means our friend of the show, James Arnold Taylor, is going to be hosting the event. He usually does host the American events. So,
Nice.
Yeah, it's gosh, this event.
How do we get sent there?
You know what? I'll talk to our Star Wars people.
Hey-o.
Where will the state of Star Wars be in 2017? This is a post Rogue One world. This will be the final lead up.
Put it in my head like
The
this.
final lead up to Episode 8.
Yeah.
We're going to be kicking up.
In what? In April. So we'll get a trailer for Episode 8. A more extensive trailer from Episode 8, just in case they've released a teaser trailer ahead of time. We'll definitely get a more extensive trailer of Episode 8, and we'll get to see, like, probably hints of characters, like they did for Celebration before Force Awakens, where they had, like, here's the Lego display that we can't show you anything, but here are the names of possibilities.
Okay.
Things of that nature. I think we'll see things like that. Some packaging will probably get leaked, so to speak, from different countries like Mexico and Germany, like it was in France, like it was last time. So any number of things I think will happen, and I think we'll understand a little more about the connections between the characters, and also with the novels and the media, and also with Rogue One, we'll have a little more of excitement for what's to come on these stories. Because I just have this feeling, like I had before Force Awakens, that I don't think they're going to mess any of these movies up for a while. Like, I just have this feeling that they're really putting a lot of thought, they're getting the right people behind it, and it just feels like it's going to be great. So we'll be coming off the glow of Rogue One. It'll only have been in theaters, 4 or 5 months by the time this happens. So there's still a glow. So people are going to want to see merchandise. People want to see stuff there at Celebration and what they're going to talk about. If Rogue One is a standalone, or if it's going to bleed into other things. So
It'll be a great time. Celebration is always a great time for Star Wars fans. May 4th was a wonderful day to be Star Wars fans. Didn't make it up to Disneyland to pick up one of the shirts just because it's a lot of money for a shirt. And hopefully they keep them around for a little while. Yes. Just wanted to point out really quick, Paul Grant in chat says Orlando. Maybe that could be another confirmation that we get as well.
Very
maybe we
nice.
get a confirmation of Lando Calrissian in Episode 8.
Hey, now that's a good Star Wars game. Lando.
They
don't ever get a background of Lando. Follow Lando through his establishing his empire.
I like that.
That was a great.
Good on you. Get a little bit of Han Solo here and there.
Leia.
That could be a lot of fun. All right, so let's move from here into our main subject, which is talking about this book right here, Bloodline by Claudia Gray. This takes place 6 years before the events of The Force Awakens.
Yes.
So Ben's a young man.
Ben is a young man. In his 20s, around his 20s. around there?
Still training with Luke.
Still training with Luke. All right, so do we tell? Okay, so let's talk about it because we want the fans to know. Are we gonna do? We're gonna do minor spoilers, maybe.
We're gonna do minor spoilers,
So-
but the minutia is enough to.
We're not gonna spoil the ending of the book.
No.
Or what happens at the end of the book because you got to pick it up. You got to get it digitally or get it, like old school, hold it in your hands.
Audible.com. If you haven't signed
Audible.
up for a free, you can sign up for a free membership. You have to put in your credit card information, but you cancel it. You get one free audiobook.
Yeah.
Great way to do it. It's cheap through Amazon Digital. I got this at Target for $13.
Yeah. So basically, here's the plot line to a degree, right? You have Princess Leia. She's a senator now. There are two different factions in the government. This is like Mark was saying, it's 6 years before Force Awakens, so it's between Jedi and Force Awakens, and so it's got that time. So it's 20 to 30 years time for. So the centralists who are stronger, they want a stronger central government and a new leader. Do a main leader, what they want to call the first senator, and then you have the populists who want a weaker central government and more local control, and Leia is part of them. And so Leia is considering leaving service of being a senator. She wants to go travel the galaxy with Han, who's now a racing tycoon. And what happens here is that this the Twi'lek, this representative emissary from Twi'lek,
Ryloff.
I'm sorry, yeah, Ryloff, who's a
Twi'lek
Twi'lek
emissary from
Twi'lek
Ryloff.
emissary, yeah. He comes in and he says, like, there's all this stuff going on. There's these cartels, these Nikto cartels, and I just want to we need you to say, which took the place of the Hutts because the Hutts have lost their influence in that system. So they want to figure out what's going on. Leia jumps up and volunteers to go on this mission to figure this out while the two sides of the senators are fighting amongst each other. She steps up and says, I want to take this mission on. And so she's going to go explore and find out what's going on with this underworld cartel. And before she can fully get out of there alive, and in her mind, she's like, I'm just going to do this, and then I'll be able to retire. A younger senator steps up who wants to go with her, and that is Ransom Caster Foe, who is fantastic and almost
character.
steals the book. And as amazing as Leia is, he almost steals the book. And so they go together with these 3 or 4 other people, and they go on this mission, and that's the plot line, is where you discover how deep the Nikto cartel is throughout that system, and then you start to see the shades of the beginning of the First Order and where it's coming from, and that the centrists are possibly funding it, and who's involved. And you have a lady senator who's playing both sides. So there's so much involved in this book.
Carice Syndion.
Yes, Carice Syndion.
I made sure to write down all of the important names.
Yes.
Just, yeah.
Listen, you can't read the Star Wars books unless you're incredibly intelligent, without writing down all this stuff. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
Sure. Now, so this had it moved in a similar way to Lost Stars, except Lost Stars was really only from 2 people's perspectives.
Yeah.
This widened it out. I think all of the people that I wrote down, Ransom Caster Foe, Corsella, Leia, Joff Sea Striker, who's
Yes,
a
he's awesome.
young pilot, Carice Syndion, Greer Sonnel, and so Corsella, we heard a lot about. She was Leia's aide that dies on Hosnian Prime in episode 7 with the deleted scene. So we got to get a little bit more from her.
Right.
She's a 14-year-old girl at this point, just an intern in her office, and it makes me like I want to go back and see that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we reviewed the DVD. It's not on there.
Yeah.
So when they do eventually release that scene, I wonder if that will sort of invoke the feels similarly to how watching the Death Star go down changed how we felt, or how reading Lost Stars changed how we felt about seeing the Death Star go down. And it's interesting how only 25 years removed from all of this stuff, people are like, well, I mean, this is just politics and politics. In a matter of speaking,
sure.
The centrist seeing the range of intensity that the centrists go through, from understanding the importance of a strong central government to do you understand the power that the Emperor had with Darth Vader, with a person like Darth Vader at his beck and call? So that it paints all of that not 50, but several shades of gray for us to understand as the fans. And some of the stuff was wrapped up a little bit too nicely for me, whereas other stuff wasn't wrapped up well enough.
Oh, interesting.
Like the fate of some of our characters might leave it open to another adventure, maybe, or a short story, or a short film, even. Like I could see a follow-up to this leading maybe a year or two after leading up to it.
Yeah, what's fascinating is it echoes into our political climate now. You know, this idea that if you believe one side, then you can't possibly understand my side. And so it's so interesting to see that. And Mon Mothma has fallen ill. We get that from Leia. She tells us that. So there's a void. And what's great, one of the things that I enjoy about the book is Leia's inner monologue. Her inner dialogue is really illuminating for you. And it is one of the most amazing encapsulations of Leia's representations of Leia as a character. This is the Leia that we fell in love with in the original trilogy. She is temperamental. She gets into situations over her head. She says things that get her into trouble, and they don't really work. They don't necessarily work out at the end. So she understands. But this is who Leia is, and this is why she's one of the most interesting and fascinating characters in the Star Wars universe. Is that she is not someone that you can pin down. You know, Solo's always going to do what Solo's going to do. But what Leia is a smart, intelligent, tough woman who is racked with guilt by a lot of her past. What happened on Alderaan, what happened that when she found out that Vader was her dad. She's still struggling 25 years later, 30 years later after Jedi with the fact that Vader was her dad. And I thought one of the most powerful moments was when she remembered being held by Vader, or being held down by Vader to watch the death of Alderaan, going, that's my dad who held me down and had me watch my adopted planet, my family, die.
My actual family.
Yeah, my actual family who actually raised me die, you know?
There does come a moment later in the book where she accepts it in a way where she wears sort of like a long black dress with a cape, and she has a moment kind of playing around with that notion. So that shows her strength a little bit more as well. I loved all of our characters.
Yes.
All of our characters that we got. Our villain, Rinra Vindi, who's the Nikto cartel leader. They only talked in 2 scenes. But they were some of my favorite, because here's a mobster trying to appeal to Leia's ideals as a politician. But then we find out that the Nikto have always been sort of kept under by the Hutts. And he brings up this idea of calling Leia Hutt Slayer. And I loved that. And here's a holocube that they spread around, and they hold her in such high esteem. They found a bottle of wine from Alderaan just to impress her. Like, that's a great villain right there. I loved their conversations, especially speaking to Leia's inner monologue. You saw her going like, oh, he's trying this crap again, but oh wait, this is from Alderaan.
Right.
I always saw this as oh my god. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you wanted, for the fans who wanted more politics, nails it.
Done well.
100% nails it.
And not boring at all.
No.
It's really not boring at all. And done really, really well in terms, and the characters they use to hammer each side of the politics. I mean, the exchanges between Leia and Ransom are, is that what I say?
It's spelled Ransol, but I'm pretty sure it's Ransom.
Yeah. Between her and Castropho, those exchanges are great, because you're hearing both sides of it, and you're hearing multi-generational sides of it, which is something that's really happening here in the country now. Is like, well, a lot of people, and I don't want to get too far off, but I think it's important to hear this. Like, a lot of women with the Hillary Clinton thing are having a really hard. Some women are having a really hard time of a younger generation, because they don't know what it's like to grow up in an environment where they can't be anything they want to be. And a lot of women from the older generation remember times when they couldn't, when they were told they couldn't be these things. And I think you're seeing that now with Ransom to a degree, because Ransom or Castropho is saying, hey, that's why he has all these relics. He has these Empire relics, because he's like, oh, if they just had the right emperor, the Empire would have really worked. If it had been a benevolent, nice, trusting, really communicative emperor that listened to its people, the idea of having one emperor to rule the entire galaxy would be okay. And of course, Leia bristles at it, because any centralized power is a threat to essentially, she's a states' rights senator. So all this stuff is really, really interesting and fascinating to explore. For me, as a fan of history and as a political junkie, it was so fun to even the Hutt stuff.
Yeah.
The Hutt stuff is can really relate to Iraq in that like Hussein was in charge of everything. This boiling pot, and then as soon as they moved Hussein, all this stuff appeared. Right, the Niktos were being controlled by the Hutts because the Niktos are almost worse than the Hutts. The Hutts understood that, and they could control them and use them in their way, and now removing the Hutts, now everything's gone to pieces.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating, man.
I really, really think that this is a great way for people who aren't necessarily into politics.
Yeah.
Once you start looking into the politics of a quote-unquote false reality of an imaginary world,
Yeah.
you see where their inspiration comes from.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. Castrofo, the scene with Castrofo and Leia at the beginning in his office, when it's like, why do you have all of these Empire relics? I'm just kind of a collector. But then you find out more about Castrofo's past and why exactly he has those. So Castrofo was kind of our favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were there any other great? I mean, all of the original characters from this book were pretty fantastic.
Greer Sonnel is great. She is
Sonnel.
so great, so powerful, and so like it's very much. How can I say this? Like, this is a woman that doesn't waver in her beliefs on things, and I enjoy that. I don't have to be gender specific. It's a character who doesn't waver with their beliefs on things, and she's able to be. She's able to deal with Leia's temper because she understands Leia's ultimate personality, ultimate character is to want what's best for everybody in a good way, in a benevolent way. So she excuses those moments of temper because she respects her as an accomplished person.
She also sees her as Han saw her. Through how they know each other, which is another fun story.
Yeah.
But it's cool to have somebody that goes, just let her blow off steam. Or there's a lot of fun espionage and action, and it comes across really well. I would suggest if you're not of the reading sort, get the audiobook. Listen to it like a podcast, chapter a day if you have a long drive, or go on a long drive and listen to this book because it's well worth it. One of the things that I found interesting was with how little we even saw the name Ben typed in this book. It gave us so much about their relationship.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because you have Han and Leia have their moments. I mean, I love the moment when Leia tells him that she wants to go gallivanting around the galaxy with him, and he's like, are you sure you want to go back to that? And you get a real glimpse into their marriage. And then she speaks about Luke and Ben almost always together because they're off, exploring Jedi artifacts and all that. So you get a little bit of background on Luke. That's just a little bit, just enough to give you a taste to be excited about what's to come in 8.
Agreed.
And give you a little taste of like what might have happened, because the big reveal. Not everybody knows. I don't want to spoil it too deeply. Do we want to spoil it?
About the reveal?
About the heritage.
Well, let's just say for the majority of the book, the public doesn't know about Leia's parentage.
Right.
Leia's birth parentage, and it comes out in a very grand, very political fashion.
Right.
And we find out that Ben doesn't know about his parentage.
And that is something that echoes into 7 and into 8. The idea that Ben didn't know, and at a later age found out.
And presumably not from the people that should have told him.
Right. Only because it was revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Only because it was revealed. He wasn't told this from the beginning so that he could come to terms with it, understand it, grow with it, and be in a controlled environment, which is, i.e. his parents' house, where he could come to terms with it, rebel against it, figure it out, and be able to process it. No, it's come out later. So this is, once again, this is very interesting. You take these characters that we love so much, that we just put good on them, and see that they're human, that they have flaws, they make mistakes. In parenting even, there's this, their choice might have worked out. If he'd been a little bit older and then come to terms with it, a little bit older because he's already processed, he's a man, he's able to handle things mentally, but younger, he's still a hothead. He's still figuring out his emotions, who he is as a man. You throw this into the mix, it's an excuse for him to be like, well, these impulses that I've had, maybe they are natural impulses, and I'm supposed to follow this path.
And again,
So
it wasn't something that he heard firsthand. It wasn't
Right.
something that hey, we need to sit you down. We need to
Yes,
tell you something. It's
exactly.
Dad's doing his dumb races, Mom's doing her dumb politics, and she sends me a video.
Yeah.
So that even more adds strain to a younger mind
Yeah.
that might not be ready to process all of that.
Right.
So it's really it shows you a little bit more of Ben.
Yeah, and the idea that he's been going off with Luke to excavate these old Jedi artifact things. Already you see his lightsaber, his ancient lightsaber that he uses. That's got to be related to the fact that he's been with Luke on these missions to look at these ancient artifacts and things of that nature.
And from going back to Rebels, seeing the massacres, essentially, had messes with a young mind, especially a one with a Hot Topic gift card in his wallet at all times. But it just like with Aftermath, there was so little that we learned about the world that we're familiar with. But it was plenty, absolutely plenty. How did this change? Did this change your opinion of Leia for the better or for the worse?
No, I think it made her richer. I think it made her more even more relatable, for the lack of a better term, connectable. Like, this is a woman that has had a lot of responsibility, a lot of tragedy, a lot of difficult situations thrust upon her since the beginning of her life. I mean, remember what they say in the book. She was a senator at 14. She was in the Senate, rather, at 14. So she was, from the beginning, she was involved in these politics, understood the machinations of what was going on through the different regimes, all those things in the galaxy. And then you throw in the fact that she chose this kind of scoundrel to be her husband, and then has this son who turns on them. There's so much here of Leia. Leia is a tragic figure in a way that I never thought she would end up being. And so for me, I think it's fantastic because you get to really explore Leia's very strong personality and how at times it serves her and how at times it doesn't. Just like everybody else, we all have these things that make us who we are, and they either lead us to positive things or lead us to negative things. Yeah. That's just the way life is for everybody. No one is pure,
I agree.
It's
that inner monologue. It's that inner monologue, man.
Inner monologue
it really
everything.
It helps add that extra bit. It's something that we can't get from a movie.
Yeah.
It's only implied subtext, whereas there it is.
Yeah.
There's all of the subtext.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved seeing her, maybe not necessarily in her prime, but seeing how much she doesn't necessarily disregard her accomplishments.
Yeah.
She recalls it differently than everybody else, going, this is something that is great for political things. Right. Whereas she was like, dude, that ship was so fast, and I'll never forget having a blaster at my side. Like, she has a completely different idea than what people use for politicking reasons, and it adds so much more to her character. And for people who didn't think she was in enough of The Force Awakens, boop, boop, right here.
Yeah.
Pick this up.
That's the subtle beauty of the book. What you're talking about is the subtle beauty of the book, of seeing all the events.
in general.
Yeah. Seeing the events through another point of view of a person who's actually there.
Certain point of view.
Yeah.
What character from or planet from the book do you want to see in episode 8?
That's a good question.
Oh, good. You came up with it.
That's a good question.
Even better.
No, I liked the planet that Lightspeeder or Joff was from.
You mean
Pomarthe.
That was Greer.
That was. I'm sorry, Greer's from there.
With the Port in the Storm,
which is why they're all like, why they're playing with the cliffs and everything like that. They're all pilots because of that situation, right? You could make that argument.
You have to do well with a boat before you're given a spaceship.
Right. And it's a very hard planet, joking planet to drink a lot. I mean, it just seems like a really fun planet to kind of explore and go into, in my opinion. Yeah. What about you?
And I should have written down the names of the Sebensko, the planet from the last act. It reminded me of like a BioShock sort of a area. Anything underwater where you have to create your own world is nice, and with the fate of the planet, I think it would be even interesting to visit it after the fact.
Yeah.
Because then you get even more of a Bioshocky feel, where people are trying to survive. It might create madness. A very similar situation to what we get from that game. In terms of characters, Greer 100%.
Yeah.
Casterfo, I would like to see more of.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, if we do get to see the Senate, I want to know what happened to Carice Indian.
Yep.
And I'm not saying lady, I'm saying Carice Indian. Monster. She's a monster.
She was an interesting character because she's very reminiscent of what you would see like almost like a Southern senator from the 60s or 50s. Like she's got that Southern belle type of approach to things, but she
about titles.
Yes, all about titles. Very important, you know. So there's a hierarchy, there's a royalty, there's a tradition, a culture. You've gotta, like the fact that when she was encouraging her to go to that ceremony, you've got to go. You have to go. There's a title. This is very important. All these things that don't matter to Leia because Leia doesn't stand on ceremony, you know. And so it's interesting to see the juxtaposition.
And she's one of the few people that calls her Princess Leia
instead
of Senator Leia. Yeah, that was we only got a little bit from her, but hers were really telling.
It was enough to be memorable.
Yeah,
very memorable character.
And actually, speaking of her sections, because they happened a little bit more in hers than in others. There are a lot of times when the book leads you to thinking a certain way and thinking about a certain person, a certain like we already talked. It talks about the First Order. And it's pretty in the promotion for the book. They talk about the seeds of the First Order.
Right.
So in reading it, there was a time where I went, we haven't heard anything about the first. Oh, there it is. It was like a page or two before seeing the words "the First Order" or this character or that character, and it's Claudia Gray, man. She knows how to hold your hand to get. All right, no, you go find that instead of just wait. Let me show you this thing, and supposed to no. You ride the bike.
Yeah.
And by the way, the training wheels are off. No, I don't wanna. That was really weird.
I think the two things about that with Claudia Gray, and I want to make this real clear, is I think she's slowly becoming. If she keeps going down this path, she's going to essentially be the Timothy Zahn of the canon books.
The actual canon.
Yeah, the actual canon. You know, because
how dare you say that Timothy Zahn is? We're not saying anything about the Tim Zahn books.
Right, we're not. I'm just saying these are. You can tell. Strip it all away. You can tell. This woman loves the property, and you can tell in the way she writes it. You can tell in the detail and the respect that she has for the characters, yet the erasure of fear to go into discovering and creating the humanity of these characters and exploring the levels that make these characters so rich, you know. And we're in a situation now where we can really enjoy that because we've spent so many years with these characters. You know, we need to see something new.
And I'll be perfectly honest. If anything comes out that's Star Wars with her name on it, I'm gonna be like, okay, I need to take a couple days off because I have to get this in my brain immediately. I mean, and that's what we've done. There are a couple times when we maybe wait a week or two before talking about a certain book, but ever since Lost Stars, nope, gotta be on top of that.
Yeah,
because this along with Lost Stars are just in general are some of my favorite books that I've ever read, let alone Star Wars books. But I totally agree. If she becomes the Tim Zahn, I don't think anybody will have an issue with it.
Well, I mean, it kind of puts it on the plate for Chuck Wendig to step up a little bit because people weren't 100% behind Aftermath, and we reviewed it on. I remember I was a guest when we reviewed it on the show here, and so we enjoyed the book, but it wasn't where we needed it to be. And then Lost Stars came out and just blew it out of the water in terms of the amount of understanding of the property that you felt Claudia had, and it continues in Bloodline, you know, and that's so much fun, and still has a moment. Shout out a little bit. There's a planet called Harloff Minor, and that is absolutely influenced by Kristian Harloff, who he's talked about her, and she's talked about him, and been interviewed together. And so I thought that was so interesting. It's a vacation planet, and so it's very interesting, these little things, and the fact that she understands that, you know.
She is very and to see that level of understanding, well, maybe not understanding, but appreciation of the fandom, of the groups that are here to just enjoy everything about her and praise her. She's had some success with her previous lines of books.
Yes.
But with the Star Wars, it's opening her up to so many more fans.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed. We talked about it a little bit. The Han and Leia moments.
Yes.
Even though we only got a little bit from holovids
Yeah.
to and from. Did you see the Han's appearance coming when Han finally joined the story?
No.
No?
I didn't see it coming. You did.
I did.
Yeah?
Just from the way that she
Okay.
worded her message, I
Yeah.
went, none of the other messages had a location in it.
Oh.
That's
catch.
happening.
All
That's
right.
happening.
Good catch.
And Han noticeably not driving the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
Piloting the Millennium Falcon. That, I think, is another side story that I would be interested in. Just the life of the Millennium Falcon. Who are these owners? Why does Han keep losing it?
Right.
Is it sabacc? What other type of gambling? Does he lose it in races?
Right.
Are they fighting for pinks? Like, what is it? Who knows? But their relationship, what little scenes they do have together, doesn't feel. It feels like a natural extension of the relationship that we left them in at the end of episode 6.
Yeah, exactly, and it does give you seeds, not just of the First Order, but of the division coming between them. You know, as much as she wants to go off with him, but you can tell that Han isn't the biggest fan of it from the beginning. So you see, like, there's these things that make them who they are. That still, as much as they love each other, they are two very incredibly different people in how they've built their lives. I mean, this is a woman in the Senate since she was a teenager. This is a man who's been scoundreling the universe. Do you know what I'm saying? And doing
Scoundreling the universe.
I don't know what the word is, but, like, you know what I mean.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You know, he's been doing these trades, and who knows how shady stuff he's been involved in over the time. And so it's an interesting combination of two people, and trying to make that work. It's not easy. It's not easy. And you can still tell they love each other very, very much, but it's not easy, their relationship. And I love the fact that we get it. We get that, and we get mentions of Lando, and we get Chewie. We need to find out what happened with what you talk about with him not driving the Falcon. Mm-hmm. We need to find out what happened between Chewie and Han.
I think
why is Chewie on Kashyyyk just being a family man?
And I think we're gonna read more about that in Life Debt.
Good.
Coming up later this year.
Yeah.
So sort of as a last thought, it was wonderful to hear Pablo Hidalgo, the wonderful historian Pablo Hidalgo, mention that Rian Johnson did have a little bit of input in this book.
Yeah.
He said the disposition of the New Republic, its political factions, and the napkin incident, holy crap, were pieces that came from Rian Johnson. The napkin Johnson, the napkin Johnson, the napkin incident, not something to be taken lightly. Wow, did not expect that.
Yeah.
The scandalous revelation in the book was actually a pitch for a pre-The Force Awakens animated short proposed back in 2012 called, quote, Scandal of Blood.
Wow.
And at the end of their conversation, they ended up saying, this would be great as a book. And here we are, 4 years later, we have the book. So, final thoughts on this wonderful book by Claudia Gray.
I absolutely recommend it 1,000%. It's a quick read. So, after everything we've gone over, trust me, it's still a very quick read. They're engaging, interesting, fun characters. There are archetypes that that you've seen multiple times in Star Wars universe. And I'm talking about Joff, who's very reminiscent of a young Solo, possibly, or young Luke, in terms of, like, the excitement to go out there and do stuff.
Blue-eyed kid.
Yeah, very reminiscent of Poe Dameron. So you see these archetypes that come through, but then you get these other characters that are very rich and interesting to follow, and they give you perspectives onto things that are going on in the universe that you that you enjoy exploring, and especially Casterfell. Casterfell is Leia is obviously the reason to read the book, but Casterfell is the surprise enjoyment of the book.
Yeah, everything you said and more. This is a easy read. Do a book club with friends.
Yeah, do a book club with friends.
Do something. You buy the book, let your friend borrow it. It is necessary reading for any Star Wars fan. So thank you, Claudia Gray, for gifting us again with this wonderful look into the Star Wars universe. We will go from here to a very, very speedy mind probe. That's where you go to our Facebook page at Jedi Alliance. You like us. Every once in a while, we'll put up a question asking for mind probe questions. You ask us stuff. We answer it here. So let's go with our two favorite. I'll start with Jake Howard. If you were going to do an adaptation of Lost Stars, how are you going to do it? Straight film, animated, or a TV series? fan cast for bonus points. Unfortunately, didn't have a chance to cast it,
Yeah.
but I want it as a either a Netflix series,
Okay.
because that allows it 44 minutes. You could do it one season, or a trilogy of films.
Yeah.
Give it the full time.
Yeah.
And if you mirror it with something even more amazing, you do the same running time as the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And have it take place where the events line up. If you put them next to each other,
Yeah.
you can see them literally from two different perspectives, like picture in picture.
Well, as I've said numerous times on this show, when the network happens, I would like this to be...
This is the headline show.
Yes. I would. Either it's going to... Here's my vote. Either it's a 10-episode Game of Thrones type series, or it's their opening movie that they make, produced by them, done by them, for the network, 2.5 hour movie encapsulating the book, because I think it can be done as a romance, obviously,
Sure.
and explore that, and it still have all the other elements. Somehow you'll have to cast younger people or do some CGI to get those characters in there that we recognize from the original trilogies
Sure.
and that kind of stuff. So that would be fun. But those are my two choices: either as a TV series, it's very serious, kind of Game of Thrones type series, or a 2.5 hour movie that's very much their like opening debut movie of what they can do under their banner of the Star Wars Network.
I agree. I totally agree. Your next question?
Yes, Eric Bay Anderson. Does anyone think that maybe the new Jedi Temple was fractured by the no attachments clause? Did Luke, Leia, and Han have a falling out with this not so new info, especially after Ben was born? Of course, brought on by the teachings of Ghost Yoda. I think that is a significant, valid question. I like that he says his question is a significant, valid question. I should hope you think it's a significant, valid question.
Or else why would you ask it?
Yes, exactly.
Bless you.
What's your answer?
I think 100% it was fractured by the no attachments thing. Maybe Leia was starting to, like we see in Bloodline, she wants to get out of the political world. Maybe Ben was the first time where she was like, I have my out. I can be a mother to this kid. Like I didn't have my birth mother, but not to poo-poo on the Organas, but maybe to give with myself, Luke, and Han. As this family, we can give him an environment that we never had, fearing the whole Vader thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it was Luke and Yoda that came up with, well, if we just stick to the Jedi Code, there won't be a problem.
Right.
There was no issue before.
Right.
I mean, clearly. So I think 100% Han was maybe like, I don't know about staying grounded, but maybe taking the family with him, whereas Leia was like, well, let's all stay on this planet. But Luke was like, don't worry about it. Y'all do your thing. I'm just going to take your kid out. Like, no. So, yeah, I definitely think the no attachments thing could have been the impetus for all of it.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think everything you said, absolutely. And also, I mean, just the whole, anytime you try to put restrictions on human beings, some people are going to naturally rebel and do little things to undercut it. And so it just makes the most sense. I mean, no one likes staying under a totalitarian government in fantasy or in reality, and under these kinds of things where you're like, no this and no that, with which things that feel very naturally in an impulse. And so I would feel, as human beings, I don't mean as a person who's off their head, I mean like someone as a human being's impulse is naturally to rebel against something like that. And so to me, that 100% agree with what Mark said.
So let us know what you think about this down in the comments.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric Bay Anderson and Jake Howard. If you want to be featured on MindProbe, we're going to post a new one this week. So make sure to leave us your questions, whether it be about Bloodline, whether it be anything fun, serious, lore-based. Let's talk about it. We had some fun ones that we couldn't use today that I want to go back to. And he's staring right at us. But we'll do that next week. Let's go from this to Duel of the Fates. Last week's question, I like how the fanfare is getting smaller. Last week's question: if you were going to make a sorry, it's in all caps. If you were going to make a fan film from The Force Awakens, would you do a Maz Kanata film or a Captain Phasma film? And it's split 70-30 for Maz Kanata. And I'm going to read some of the I
Maybe
really
choose
appreciate.
one. Maybe choose one.
Nah,
Okay.
We can read a couple.
Okay.
If Disney, this is from Ricky Howell. If Disney and Lucasfilm want to legitimize the Maz Kanata fan theory, excuse me, that she is quote hidden in some of the other films. Thank you for quoting with me. Even in direct contact with Anakin in Episode 2, I think it'd be interesting to see some of these from her point of view, or even hear about them. Exploring the idea could really give this character a lot of depth and only add another layer to the saga when you go back and watch them all again.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I love that. Phasma, right? David Siva for Captain Phasma said, you would learn how / she joined the First Order, disowned by her family or left behind and recruited to the First Order, taken and broken down and trained into a fierce killing machine. Boy, David has a lot of imagery about this, about Phasma. Later, showing her skills at getting results, she then is promoted through the ranks, or rather gets the rank through battle as her own commanding officers are slaughtered. However, much she believes or is trained to believe what she is doing is right, there is something more, that the First Order is not always right.
Dun dun. And then we give you a lot of reads to do. I just want to do this one in my stupid voiceover voice. Jace Christensen says, Captain Phasma, sleeper cell. We're going to find out in Episode 8 that the reason she lowered the shield so quickly is that she's a deep cover rebel. This is her story.
Nice.
Dun dun.
Nice.
Not as good as yours, but
very good.
You have a much beautiful voice than mine. You can actually listen. He does the audiobook for Bloodline. So
Yes, I do. Yes, absolutely. Listen
make sure to do that. This week's question: what Star Wars character would you elect for first senator and why? This gives them complete galactic control. Will they turn into another emperor? We don't know. So existing in the same time isn't a factor. So, for example, you can choose Leia from Episode 4 versus Leia from Episode 7, etc., etc. Do you know the name of the man on the right, John?
Terrence Stamp.
I mean, the name of the character.
General Zod.
You know what? I'll give you that one.
You tell me.
Shout out to Chancellor Valorum.
Hey, Valorum.
I was
just joking.
I know. But yes, let us know. We're going to post this tomorrow. Let us know who you think would make the first senator. What do you...
Mine is Kenobi or Yoda.
Which Kenobi? See, that's what makes it more interesting.
Kenobi after the death of after Anakin goes away. That Kenobi. Still young. Coming into his later 30s, early 40s, he can rule in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I think older Kenobi couldn't be bothered. And I think because of the experiences, because he became a hermit for so long, I think the Kenobi before he becomes a hermit is the Kenobi you want. And I think older Yoda is who you'd really, really want.
You know what I'd really want?
Who's that? Who would you really, really want?
Ahsoka Tano.
Oh!
I would want a older, disavowed. She's not with the Jedi Order.
She's not.
She's just totally everything with Vader and her life with the Jedi Order. That could bring her decisions would be a lot more based in firsthand experience.
Interesting.
And I think she could do a hell of a job. So we're talking all over the canon here. Let us know what you think on Facebook. But for now, we got to get out of here. Thank you for listening to this episode. John, where can the folks find you?
You guys can always find me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA. You can see all the shows I'm hosting, all the shows I'm a guest on, and that's my life. And also any of the voiceover work that I'm doing, and maybe some of the Harry Potter stuff.
What about your new podcast?
Yes. Oh, yes. I have a new podcast. It's probably going to premiere this week. Probably. I like that. We got to get a logo done soon. But it is called The Cinephiles, and me and a film professor friend of mine here in Los Angeles, we break down one classic film before the year 2000 over an hour. Like we break down the production history, we break down the actors rather, we break down where they are in their lives, and then how the film affected them in their lives and in their career, and how it affects the legacy of film itself.
I've always loved the idea ever since you started talking about it.
Thanks, man.
I'm excited to hear it. You could also listen to two of us. If you are a wrestling fan, you can go to the Gimmick Pod on the Wrestling Viewpoint Network on iTunes. Thank you again to Mr. Ken Knapsack, who hosts all of our wrestling podcasts that we do. So do us a favor, go listen to it if you're a fan, because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a good time doing it.
And we're going to do it a little bit more often. Dang it.
Yes.
So make sure to tune into that. Tune into our sister network, AfterBuzz TV, where we have so much stuff. If you are a sci-fi fan, if you like TV in any regard, head over there. We got a lot of big stuff tonight. Next week on the Popcorn Talk Network, I also host Video Game Movie Anatomy. We're going to be covering Doom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the new game's coming out, so I figured, why not take a look at that train wreck? So make sure, stay tuned. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Donica. You can follow all of us here. I'll tell you in a moment. Thank you for listening, and or watching to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all of the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died to bring us this information. Buy Bloodline! Buy it! Buy it! Buy Bloodline! Buy the book! Buy it! Buy the book!
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.